Hi guys, it's me, Carrie Silver Lining Mena, and I know I just published a video not too long ago, but I have more things to say. And remember in the last video, I kept saying there's more, there's more. Well, here is the more. So this is kind of a continuation of well, they're all, well, no, they've been like independent stories in a way, but this one is also kind of independent, but a continuation of last week's story time. And the reason I'm like busting it out so quickly is because I'm about to start my adventuring in a couple days. I have my trip to Austin that I mentioned, and then I immediately take off to my dad's house. He's getting some eye surgery, the same surgery I did, the lens replacement. But he's doing one eyeball at the beginning at the end of July and then another one at the end of August. So I have to go. Okay, I knew I got a crazy itinerary. I'll just be going, and so Austin a week, then my dad's. I'm taking my twins to Austin, then I'm taking my twins with me to my dad's, and then I come home. They take off to school, and I take off to Amsterdam. I'll be in Europe for I don't know how long. I don't have a plan yet how long I'm going to stay there, but I do have to be back to take my dad for his second eye appointment at the end of August. So I have to come back to America at some point. So I won't even be able to do another video until September if I wanted to. However, I have a feeling that I'm going to kind of back off for a while. I know I just got, my gears revving again with this show, but if my life goes in the direction that I think it is and in which the tarots are leading me to believe it is, then I kind of want my next phase to just belong to me for a while. Me and, my twinny, to be honest. And also, according to the tarot, he is not going to be appreciating me blabbing my biz and our business on the internet. So I want to be respectful of him too. And I know that my story is definitely share worthy, but I would prefer to share it like in hindsight when I have perspective, not when I'm in the middle of stuff and figuring it out. But I have this one story that is so interesting that I want to get it out before he messages me and asks me to cease and desist. I don't know if he will, but I'm always about sharing my authentic self, so I gotta get this out real quick. And I don't, all the things I say about him is well, it's speculation. Even in the past, all my bitching and complaining about him is well part truth because I did experience that stuff, but it's always one sided in my perspective because there has not been a lot of communication between the two of us, and also a lot of it has again also been my perspective, so it doesn't necessarily reflect reality. It only matters what I perceived it to be, and as long as it helped propel me in my growth, that's all that mattered. So a lot of the shit talking I had done in the past may or may not have been the truth. It doesn't matter. It got me from point A to point B. And on that note, what I forgot to mention last time, I hope it was clear. But when I talked about like how, well, because, I didn't mention the Adjustment Bureau, but the Adjustment Bureau, when they said, when I said that I was brought, a surrogate for him, Fairy Boy, and he was brought somebody, a stand in for me. I mentioned how that experience of, regretting having fucked up and not having, my time with him, the feelings of regret and remorse that I felt, I realize in hindsight that that was the same feeling that I would have had I had that experience with him and, chose to go back to my family, interestingly enough, for the sake of my kids, which is, if you remember, I don't know if you do or don't, but that's what, quote, the member of M6 named Tennessee did. The reason I didn't see him in Tennessee all those years ago was because he decided to go back to his wife for the sake of the kids. So I played a role as Tennessee. That was supposed to be who Michael most resembled. But I played a role as being the one that went back to my spouse for the sake of the kids. And then the other person of M6 was No Plans, who I am definitely right now. I'm No Plans. So I got a chance to be both No Plans and Tennessee. So I don't know, if Michael went back for the sake of his wife and kids. I mean, maybe that's what happened the last time when we didn't connect a couple years ago. I have no idea. Just putting my own clues together. And was he ever No Plans? Maybe he started off that way, like, 10, 15 years ago when he was a young person. Maybe he had no plans. I don't know. Anyway, I'm definitely No Plans right now. And I remember talking to Eric about this person, this No Plans, this person, this hypothetical sixth member of M6. And I remember saying, wow, that must be very liberating to just have no plans and just be free, which is very appealing to me. I'm at that place right now. But Eric said, yeah, but then you never really feel like you belonged anywhere. And I can really relate to that in a way because I've always felt like I've never had like my own place. I mentioned that before, I think, in that I've always lived somebody else's life. Like I've always gone along with somebody else's plan. Even as a young girl, as a child, you go along with your parents' plan. That's just the way it is. So I was always schlepped around with my mom wherever she needed to go. I did make the plan to move to my dad's, my grandma's. He lived with my grandma for a while. But then when I connected with my husband, I got, it's going to be weird to stop saying that. It's so ingrained in me. He's still my husband, although we are estranged. Are we estranged? We're separated. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, my lovey. I've always lived with his plan. I moved into his place. Always his decision, and I've always gone along with it. And even now, if I do end up going to Europe, I mean, I might have some of my own plan, like I guess that's why I like going to Europe, is because it's always my plan. I choose everything. I choose the restaurant I want to go to. I choose the hotel I'm going to stay at. I choose everything. It's my plan. But it's not really like, I don't have like my own sense of home. My home is somebody else's home always. Okay, I deviated. Anyway, I'm No Plans again. Okay, so where was I going to go? Why was I on this fucking tangent? Damn it. I'm already confused. Hang on, I'm going to pull my little pause thing, okay? Hang on. Okay, I don't really know, but anyway, I started off with saying that, I got to hurry up and get all my stuff out because this is going to be my last one for a while, I think. Okay, so there really isn't an order to this one. This is like the olden days where I just had a bunch of things like bullet pointed and they are sort of connected. So let me start off. I want to go on. I want to talk about my lovey a little bit more because a lot of the shit talking I did do about him in the past was real time and it was real. And he really was. I mean, he really has always been a loving, caring man with underneath it all, a pure heart. Always very, nurturing for real. And so that was part of the problem, was that it's so loving, so caring, but yet such an asshole, and that's why I stayed with him so long, is because I knew that love was there and that care was there, but he was just so, his own trauma manifested in assholery. It's like we were both, traumatized as children, but his came out in narcissistic tendencies and mine came out as the empathic tendencies. And so, we were just drawn together vibrationally because we fit, and so he perpetuated his and I perpetuated mine until finally, and it was always going to be me. It's always, the narcissist has no reason to break off the relationship because it suits him. But me on the receiving end of that abuse is going to be the one that stops that. Anyway, we fit the profile, we fit the pattern, the formula. But he really has grown so much. And if circumstances were different, then through continued work, I believe that I could have a nice life with him. He's still not there. And if I didn't have other prospects, then I would I would be willing, I don't know, would I be, I don't know. I wouldn't be willing to stick it out with him. I would be willing to take space with him, from him, and go back to him once he had healed. That would be a potential. So let me start there. Okay, here's the next story then. Um he sent me a text last week and he goes, "Remember how at the beginning it was like you like pursued me and I tried to get away, and now it's like the opposite. Now I want you and you're trying to get away from me." And I said, "Well, it's not that I want to get away, it's that I have to." But a little light bulb went off in my head and I'm like, "Oh my God, that's a fucking twin flame dynamic right there." And I had been like stewing some other like thoughts in my head for a while now because I'm like a fucking twin flame magnet, because not only am I doing this twin flame thing with Michael, and I believe that he is like the twiniest twin I have. But if you think about the other twin flame like experiences well, if you think, you're not thinking about it, I'm thinking about it, so let me tell you. But way back from the brothel time when it was Mariana and Maurice, who was Eric, he died before I could finish that twin flame work with him. That's why, according to Eric, Michael is doing him a favor so I can repeat that experience in this life, which is why Mariana dumped into my body and why I'm doing it again with Michael. So put that on again. Here I got to do that. Put that on pause shit again, but at least it won't be as tangly this time. So here's like Mariana and Maurice, but Maurice died. So here's KARI and Mariana doing it again with Michael. But eventually, KARI slash Mariana are going to be KARI slash Mariana slash beautiful mistress. And then way over here, KARI slash Mariana slash beautiful mistress will reconnect with Avery, who is also Maurice slash Eric, right? But see, Eric isn't in the KARI Michael life because Eric's dead. So Michael took over. So there's a missing piece right here. So anyway, so Maurice and Mariana are over here in separation, like this they're not together because they're, I know I'm making this confusing, but anyway, they're not humans right now because they're aliens, but they come back together as aliens. I know I made that really confusing, but anyway, eventually these two that started here in the brothel, they get to come back together here in the alien incarnations as Avery and beautiful mistress. But in this human life, Michael stepped in. Now here's my theories. Here's my motherfucking crazy ass motherfucking theory. The juicy story that I couldn't resist. That even though the tarots told me that my love interest does not appreciate the public yapping about him, I gotta say it anyway. Because just like I absorbed Mariana, and beautiful mistress is gonna absorb me, I think that if Eric were here, he would be absorbing Avery. But Eric's not here. Michael's taking over for him this round. So I think that Michael is going to absorb and integrate Avery. And let me tell you why else I think this. There's so many reasons that have brought me to this conclusion. So many reasons for this. One of the reasons is because I just got distracted by a text from my pharmacy. Sorry. Okay, so first of all, I'm having like a total do-over. Like all the way back from, I'm so sorry. I'm so tangly with this one. I don't want to start over though. Just bear with me. I always pull it together. Okay, so my do-over is about 8 years. I don't even know. Okay, if you follow Stardust, and you probably do, in Stardust, if you remember, like when Avery like proposed to me. It was like later on in that same episode. Um, so interesting because he asked me if I would have a baby with him, and then he asked me if I'd marry him. It's like he was so nervous to say that. Wonder if like, oh, I'm so afraid to say this, but I'm just going to. This is what's going on in my brain. Wonder if Michael is like going to tell me something like, you want, I got these kids, and you want to come like help me like raise them. And by the way, well, maybe marry me too. Wouldn't that be trippy? I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So sorry I said that. I'm so nervous now hearing these tarot messages saying to not say these, not just to shut up. Anyway, I was like, in that same message, I was so sad, and there was like, I was just so like fucked up during that time. But Avery said, I'm going to have like the Sarsar women like do a healing on you. And I'm going to say something to you that's going to make you so sad. But it's going to help you. It's going to make you cry, and it's going to break up that blocked like solar plexus gunk that's stuck in there. And that was the one time that I heard Avery so clearly in my head. I've never like channeled, or I don't know if it was channeling or telepathy or what. I don't know what it was, but I heard him say so clearly. He said, if you want to lose the weight, you have to let go of Michael. And I really wanted to lose the weight, and I knew I had to let go of Michael anyway. My toxic relationship, which really wasn't a relationship, more of an obsession. And it did. It broke my heart. So I bawled my fucking brains out that night. And sure enough, that was what, I don't know. I mean, I did. I lost like 50 pounds real quickly after that. I did it through keto too. And what's interesting is that I recently, I went to my weight management clinic, and I thought, and all these thoughts are going on, including that one. I thought maybe I have to do keto again, at least temporarily. And my nurse or whoever said, no, I do not recommend that, because you've worked so hard to get your hormones in balance that even if you did like a quickie and had success with that, it would fuck with your hormones. So just don't do that. And I said, say no more, because I don't want to diet like that again. I actually have lost a little bit of weight. I've lost 10 pounds eating like without feeling like I'm dieting. So I'm on like, I feel like whatever I'm doing now is working for me, but I still have to lose like, oh, see, that's another thing. I'm so fucking huge. I'm so uncomfortable in my body. I don't belong in this body. It's just all around my middle. I'm so uncomfortable. That's another thing that I'll talk about in a second. So, I keep talking about that big thing. There's going to be something big that's going to, have me lose a lot of weight. So it wasn't Larry, it wasn't the injectables, it wasn't the nervous system. It was letting go of my toxic relationship, which, like right here, I mean, I'm doing it. Fortunately for me, it wasn't like an instant thing. It wasn't like a big court battle. It wasn't, it was an internal battle, lots of pain, but we got to rip that Band-Aid off slowly. But it was really, I think, me deciding that I cannot give him any more chances. He can't come on this vacation with me and the twins. It was really, heartbreaking and devastating. But I realized that, after him, like, my lovey, like, pulling that same shenanigan on the 4th of July, it took me like a whole week to recover, like, physically, emotionally, mentally, I mean, spiritually, the whole thing. It was a whole fucking week. And I guess it's because I had found like peace, relative peace again. And for me to just like shoot right back into that flight mode. I mean, like literally, that was flight. I ran out of that restaurant and I walked 3 miles home, and I started to realize, I thought back to my life, how many times I had done that. Like so many times. I mean, I would like try to jump out of speeding cars off the freeway just to get out of that danger. Just I went into that mode. And I realized, anyway, that was just a wake up call. But in his defense, it really was the alcohol talking. And he doesn't have an alcohol problem because, he's very disciplined about that kind of stuff. And alcohol, again, alcohol's not the problem, the trauma is the problem. But he decided, I'm not drinking anymore because I can't control my trauma. So, because when I've like busted his chops about any like the teeniest, tiniest bit of like narcissistic bullshit that comes out of his mouth, he'll put himself in check right away. Think about it, process it, and learn from it. So he really is doing good. Okay, but anyway, I digressed for a sec. Let me get back to all these clues as to why I think, got me to all my, crazy shit about Michael and Avery. Doesn't it make sense though that like, okay, so here's other things like, um why wouldn't like Michael absorb Avery, or that pattern? If I'm doing it here, Mariana and beautiful mistress is doing it to me, why wouldn't that happen? And here's some other things. Is like, okay, so that night when Avery dropped that information and I bawled my brains out. You know what else happened? That night, Avery said he was going to come to me. And he did come to me. And it was so bizarre because it was in my Healy room where I used to do these videos. It was like my own room. It was a spare bedroom at the other house. It's the one that I'm calling, grandma's room. But it's my room over there. And I was sitting on the edge of the bed. And it's just, it's just a meditation, but I'm very sensitive to energies, and I would feel him, and it was so sexy. I would make my vagina throb and pulsate, and I wouldn't say I would have like an orgasm necessarily, but it was very much like energetic foreplay. And there were times when it wasn't the only time that, we engaged in that, activity. Sometimes I would feel like an almost like I was having an energetic penis being thrust into me, but there were no limits. It would come like all the way up to my chest. It was like the girth. It's very nice. But anyway, before any of that started on that day, I was so nervous. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, and I remember being like just like baffled by how nervous I was by sitting on the edge of my bed, knowing just his energy was there. I was like, this is so fucking weird. Anyway, thinking about that experience recently made me feel like I was, is that what it's going to be like again? That fucking the nerves, because I am, for all intents and purposes, like a virgin. I mean, I haven't like been like, I'm so comfortable around so many people. Like I had my friend, remember I said I had my friend Carrie came over. Remember I was having all that, be careful of the people that gossip, and I wasn't sure if it was my aunt or my friend. Anyway, my friend end up coming over, and it was okay. Everything worked out just fine. But I had no problem. We went swimming. I had no problem with being naked in front of her. I'm naked in front of my daughter. I'm even naked in front of my lovey. Like we went on our vacation. It's just, I mean, we were a little bit shy around each other, but not that big of a deal. But I'm gonna be so shy. I mean, and I realize this is gonna be, I'm gonna have to face a lot of my fears. I mean, I've done some hard work. Again, I always go back to my daughter and the anorexia, camp anorexia. But I have to face personal fears, and one of my greatest fears is going to be naked for somebody. I'm so uncomfortable in my body, and I always have been. And I was trying to like make it worse on myself. Like, yeah, but now, I'm not like a teenager being naked for somebody. I'm like a 54-year-old woman being naked for somebody, and, gravity and stretch marks and all the surgery scars I have, and all this stuff. And not only that, he's so much younger than I am. I have all these pressures put on me. But I've always been insecure about my body, so I am definitely having to face one of my biggest fears. And I had hoped that, that magical thing of losing a lot of weight really fast would happen before this experience. But no, I don't think so. I think that just like with Avery, I had to go through a lot of stuff. And if you remember from Stardust, there was a lot of talk about him not giving a shit about what I looked like, that it was all energy. And I do remember that, Michael and I were friends a little bit. We had some moments of friendship, and he was very sweet and supportive about my insecurity of my weight. And even Fairy Boy, like when I connected with him, it was when I did lose that weight and I continued to lose more weight. And through our messaging, he was always really supportive of me. And I was kind of, I'd be like down on myself, and we'd say, he was funny because we'd send each other selfies. He was pretty. And he would always tell me that I was, oh, you're looking good. And I'd be like, yeah, that's because I blurred out all the old person parts. And, and he'd laugh and he'd say, he'd compliment me, and he'd say that he would notice that when I'd walk through the train station that I was turning heads left and right, and that really gave me a huge ego boost. And again, I'd make a joke about being an old person, and he'd say, well, I can't remember what he said exactly, but he made he implied that it's the energy, my energy lights up a room. And so now, looking back on that, I have to, really take for granted and really ingrain it in me that it's my energy. It's my energy that's lovable. Because look, I got the camera angle. Clearly, I got the camera angle up and down, hiding the chin. I got old person lines and stuff. I got the jowls. I'm so insecure. I'm so insecure about the age difference. Here's another thing, okay, about Avery and Michael that I got to throw out there. I remember one time I was talking about how attracted or not attracted I was to Michael. And to be honest, what I would say is that I look at his pictures and I don't find him attractive or not attractive, but I just think he's like a regular person. And to be honest, I think I'm a regular person too. I think I could put on some good sparkles, but I think we're just regular people. But the discrepancy in us is the thing. I'm so much older and he's so much taller, and it's awkward. It's the awkwardness of it all, that it's not that I find him unattractive. It's that I find our discrepancies awkward. And but I remember saying that one time that I always found interspecial attraction sexy. Remember when Avery, he'd tell us the other kind of aliens he'd fuck, he was fuck that horse girl, and they'd have to do it in a different position than she was used to because he was a human and she was a horse. I don't remember, something like that. But anyway, I remember that turned me on. Alien sex turns me on. So the way to get around my awkwardness of the discrepancy of the size of me and Michael, I just would pretend like he's an alien, and it became, I remember I specifically said, a kinky turn on. It was a kinky turn on that he was so much taller. But then I thought recently that maybe he's so tall, on top of, all of these other theories, is so that he can contain the tallness of Avery's energy. Wouldn't that be something? That might not have anything to do with it. But here's another thing that leads me to believe that he might download Avery's energy or, consciousness, whatever. I don't even know. But future me, I guess, we've been reviewing the old readings, channelings from Heather. Heather said something when it comes to Avery, something about, how Avery, I'll start to at some point in the future, I'll start to sense him in the morning, when I wake up, I'll remember dreams or something like that. And then eventually, I don't know if this is I can't remember now, to be honest, or if this is just pervy me at the time, interpreting it this way or what, but that I'll realize that this is him in real time. This is actually him. I'm not like remembering a flashback or recalling another time. It's really him. And I've been thinking like for the longest time, how is that possible? How am I actually going to be with him without flipping the fuck out? Because remember, I'm still in like PTSD, and I startle real easy, and like I can't even handle like when somebody comes into the next room that's supposed to be coming into the next room. Like if my kid will come in, I'll startle. So how am I going to like be with an alien? I can't. I didn't understand it. But in this context, if I'm realizing that my ET is my Michael, if they're the same, then that makes sense. If I'm not going to flip the fuck out because he's not an alien like I thought he was going to be, but a human, sort of. You know? Not only that, here's another thing. If Avery downloads into Michael, I already know from my own experience because I'm so attracted to Michael, even though I think he's just, well, I was like right now, Fairy Girl's got that attraction and love, both of those things like put on pause. It's like in my back pocket next to my Smurf. I don't like. I know that when the time comes, it'll crank back up. But right now, it's just like a knowing that it's there. I'm not pining away for him. I'm not like obsessed. It's just like it's put on pause. It's like I know it's there, but I'm not feeling it. I'm 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 excited for him to come back, but I'm not like I don't know. It's a weird place to be in for me. I'm glad that I'm not obsessed and like dying for him to come back because that was torture. I'm not having love torture. Although I am having a little bit of torture for something next to happen. Okay, so wait. So one of the things that future me told me is that, or maybe no, this was beautiful mistress, is that she said that because Avery like experienced so many different like species and stuff that he didn't have any problem when I showed up with I was super tall, and bald and blue, and that he was like so attracted to me energetically that he didn't have any problems with adjusting to me physically, whereas I took a while to get used to him, and that may be very true, like energetically. I mean, not energetically, like now I might be super uncomfortable, but maybe Michael won't give a shit. Maybe I just have to like take for granted that energetically he doesn't care. I know I won't care what he looks like because I never did, except for that discrepancy. I feel awkward about it, but it's not a matter of being unattracted. Does that make sense? I guess, with lights turned off and blankets pulled over, it won't matter. So there you go. But, but I have to, I'm going to have to learn to be loved for who I am and not what I looked like. Oh, and you know what else? One of the tarot cards said something really sweet. It said something like, for once I'm going to learn what it feels like to be loved for who I am and not what I can provide. That's a concept I can't even like fathom because I always feel like I have to pull my own weight and give my fair share. So maybe maybe that's a reciprocity that he will experience too. Maybe he will know what it's like to be loved and not what he can provide. Having said that, I still want to provide whatever. I do want to come up with my fair share because I'm not a user. I'm just not. Okay, so remember that whole thing about two boyfriends at once? Maybe that's what this means. Now, I don't get though, so like I'm always like confused about what is going on with Mariana. What's Mariana doing? How has her life changed? I had never like figured that out now that I've integrated her. So what the fuck is Avery going to be doing? So we're going to have to like find all this stuff out in Stardust. That's going to be like, if it's not the first episode, then it's going to be the second one. So I can't wait to get going on Stardust. That's going to be a great segue into the beginning of that show starting back up, right? I can't wait to find out. I've been like begging Avery to download more information into me. Avery, Are you going to drop into Michael? Is that what's happening? I'm kind of convinced at this point. I know that there I might be wrong, but I'm telling you. Okay, so let me see. What else? What else? Um, okay, so here's another little bit of a story. When I was like, had my, like, had heart shaped stars in my eyes for Fairy Boy, um, I, that was the time when Bullet Train came out. Remember that movie Bullet Train with Brad Pitt? That's like one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. And one of the reasons I love that movie was because of this character called Tangerine. And he was played by a man named, what's his name? I already forgot. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, I was in love with Tangerine. But anyway, this guy, he's in other movies too. He was, oh, I can't remember, but lots of movies, plenty of movies. And he resembled Fairy Boy to me. In hindsight, I feel like now, you know how you can take a celebrity crush and like they like resemble your regular I almost said human crush, your regular crush, even though they don't exactly look alike, but close enough, just so that you can like glom on and have a celebrity to get googie eyed over. I bet he would have reminded me of Michael because he's kind of tall and stuff. I don't know. I bet I could have made that stretch too. And I realized that it really wasn't him that I was so attracted to. Like later on, as like it became clear to me, I think I have a crush on him because his wife is 22 years older than him. I think that's the real draw to this guy is that his wife is so much older than him. I think I'm drawn to that relationship. And another thing about Fairy Boy, I keep saying that I wish I could connect with him because he was such a fun friend to me. I really liked him, and for a while the guides would tell me, manifest your dream guy. Who do you want? Think about him. Put effort into creating the guy that you want because there's all kinds of them out there. So we're gonna bring the one into you. You got to create him. And so I'd be like, man, I want one just like Fairy Boy. He ticks off all my boxes. And I don't, I wasn't pining away for Fairy Boy necessarily, but one just like him. I liked all of his things, not even realizing that, Fairy Boy was a surrogate for Michael. So as I'm checking off all these boxes, or Fairy Boy is, I'm checking off all the boxes and they fit Michael too. But Michael is such a mystery to me that, like I said, we were friends for little itty bits and pieces here and there. So theoretically, I think we can be friends. But I'm looking forward to becoming his friend more than anything. I want to be friends first before all the seriousness of all, like helping to raise kids and getting married and living in his home. I mean, his home, again, it's somebody else's home, but whatever. I don't want to get ahead of myself because first things first. Are we going to like each other? I mean, I have like two perspectives of things. I always do because I am a human, but I have a foot in both worlds. So on the one hand, it's a done deal. I'm going to grow old with this guy and it's going to be beautiful. We're going to have our challenges because that's what life is. But our challenges are going to be doable. We're going to figure it out. We're going to heal together. Together. We're going to heal and grow and evolve together. But I'm also 3D and I've figured out that you can't skip parts. I can't have those stars in my eyes. Everything's going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine, says the foot, that's sitting in my expanded cloud of observation. But I have to live here on the earth and I have to do things the right way. I can't get caught up with shit. So I do want to get to know him. I do need to set my boundaries. I do need to allow him to set his boundaries and I do need to honor his boundaries. I don't want to come into something all fucked up. I don't want to, bleed my traumas all over him and etc. Some of my traumas, I think, even according to the tarot, his readings say that his person coming in has a lot of childhood traumas. And I think that him just being him and me learning to just him being him will be enough for me to learn how to relax. It will help heal my TMJ, all the stuff. I just need to learn how to relax. Just time. Wouldn't that be nice? I don't even know how to like explain what that just to see. I don't even have words for it. I don't even have words to explain what it will feel like to just be with somebody and not just being with somebody will be healing. Wow. Okay, so and here's like some of the challenges that not only like our own like challenges, and I feel like I hate for him. I hate for me a little bit that I'm so much older. I hate it for him a whole lot more. I mean, maybe it's sexy. I don't know. I don't know. Fuck. But he's going to have to deal with the judgment of his peers and family and whoever else. I don't know. My people won't care because, my tribe, first of all, I won't even be living by my tribe. So who cares, for one? And my tribe's already like, my Joy tribe, Sarah, Carrie, Tiffany, all my people, they're already, they get it. They're not going to judge. And besides that, if they were, the judgment would be like, ooh, younger man, you go, girl. He's in the position of like, ew, tattered old lady, ew. you know, uh, Ew, I don't want to be a tattered old lady for him. I know I'm looking really pretty right now, but that's because I got the lights and the makeup and the angle and everything. But this is so temporary. I got like a shelf life of like 12 days before my roots start growing in. In fact, one day I was so fucking panicked that when I thought I was gonna move there and like be married to him already in August, because I flipped out at first. I had to go. I had to calm down for a minute, but I was really at first thought I was gonna be living there so quickly. I was already Googling like hair salons, figuring out how I was gonna deal with that shit. How am I gonna keep up the ruse? But I'll figure it out. One of the good things is that I know I only got like a little bit of money like per month coming with me for a while. But I'm gonna catapult in all ways. That includes money. Eric's always told me money's gonna be good, money's gonna be good. So I'm gonna be really, really rich, at least rich by my standards, and so I'm gonna invest a lot in beauty. So I'll be fine. I'm gonna spend all so much money on youth. I want to, pretty works. I gotta be pretty in front of this camera. So, anyway, but that's going to be a work in progress too. And I don't even know if you remember this, but remember Justin Schmoyer? Well, he was like the first guy I ever got a reading from like a bazillion years ago. Even before I met Eric. In fact, he was the one that predicted Eric would come into my life, but he would say Rick. In fact, he would talk about Audie and he'd call him D. He doesn't get the first, like if there's a vowel at the beginning of the name, he didn't get it. So he kept talking about Rick. Anyway, Justin Schmoyer, like 13 years ago or something, 12 or I don't know, a long time ago, told me that I would feel pretty one day. So one day I'll get there. Okay, wait. Do I have other stuff to say? I know I do. I know I do. Okay, go away. So okay, yeah, twin flame. I swear I'm doing twin flame with my husband. I really think I am, and I do think I'll come back to him. And twin flame is also like a pendulum too, right? It's like runner or chaser, runner, balance, or whichever way you want to do it. One extreme to another. And then even with like when I was like I was in the middle of with the fairy boy, but I still don't understand how they were going to pull this off with Michael, but they would, it was there, it was done. But with fairy boy and then love bomber, I thought that I was like I thought I was being given an opportunity to know what it was like to be like simultaneously the runner and the chaser, because Love Bomber believed that I was his twin and that he was chasing me and I was running from him, and would definitely, that was the case. He was definitely pursuing me and I was definitely running away as fast as I could. At the same time, I was chasing a fairy boy while he was running away from me. So I have all of these dynamics, and even go to Allison. It's like, oh, I wasn't necessarily pursuing her, but in a way I was, because I was so excited to be a part of her world. And when she chose me to be her partner, I was like, ah. And then I had to pull away from her. And then look, she came back and she pursued me and wanted to be my partner again. I was like, oh, hell no. So I do this. Do you look at your own life? Are your pendulums, do they feel kind of like runner chaser a little bit? And I wonder too if, like, I know that I've and I don't know if I like perceived things wrong or if I'm remembering wrong or things have changed, but I was told a long time ago that I would be asked to speak at events. I wonder if it's like I will speak about twin flame stuff, because I think that I'm like the master at it. I don't know. Okay, so wait, what else? What else do I want to talk about? Okay, so yeah, oh yeah, challenges. Oh yeah, me being old. Ugh, fuck, I fucking hate that. Remember how excited I was to be a cougar? That was only when it was going to be like for a couple months with a hot young boyfriend. It's not the case. And then my body, I'm so, well, I've actually like made such huge oh, here's a story. Here's one I really should not share, but should I? No, I'm not going to. Anyway, it's a little TMI. I'm like pretty open about that stuff, but here's the G-rated version of it. But I just, I couldn't move because my body was so fucked up with the fibromyalgia, and moving out of that my family home into this home and being able to finally like breathe for a little bit, like the pain of the PTSD and all of the tension, all that other, the TMJ, all that stuff came like slapped into me. And all of the DIY physical therapy I've done, I've made like huge progress, but I'm not there all the way yet. So I wonder if maybe Michael might be a little fucked up. I don't know. Maybe his own relationship. And again, I don't know where he's at in his relationships. I'm just making assumptions based on the tarot readings and assumptions based on us being twins and doing the same thing. So I have no information, direct information. There's nothing on his wall. Nobody said anything to me. So this is all just, again, assumptions. But if he's doing anything like me, then maybe he needs a little body work too. In which case, that will be nice to have a partner to, that needs to clean up, our eating and stuff. And I already know that we both have insulin, resistance problems or whatever. We can't eat sugar and crap like that. And I'm not even like, I don't crave it like I once did. So that's good. I think being out of like the high stress stuff calmed that down. What a relief. Remember I used to like almost like get high off eating licorice. I don't even crave it anymore. I wonder what I would do if somebody offered me a piece. I'd enjoy it, but I wouldn't want to eat the whole bag. I don't know. Okay, so anyway, and I love my hikes and stuff, but I got bored of it here. It's too hot here. I keep checking the weather in Europe. It's like beautiful there. It's like 100 fucking degrees humidity here and cool 80 over there. They ride bikes over there and shit. I'm gonna get a bike. Okay, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself again. All right, so anyway, let's see what else. Looking at my list, I know there's going to be more, but I just really wanted to get that Avery story out. And if Avery did drop some of his consciousness into him, and if Michael is having to integrate that shit, boy, he must have gone a little nutters. I don't know. Again, I'm projecting with my own experience. And if so, then boy, Michael, he got like the shit deal, because he got a broken, fucked up, teenage, lost prostitute in his person. And what did I get? I got a horny, sexy alien. I got the better deal. Woohoo! Go Kari. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up here. And this is going to be my goodbye, my indefinite goodbye. I mean, I'll still be online and stuff, but I don't think I'm going to dish any more secrets. I'm just going to let me enjoy my budding romance that I don't even really know for sure that's going to happen. I mean, I think it is, right? If not, I'll be back. I'll be back to whine about my disappointment. But if I'm gone for a long time, then just assume things are good. I'll post selfies and stuff. Maybe I'll give a little bit of dish here and there. I don't know. But for now, carry on is carry gone. Wish me luck, okay? And I appreciate those of you that gave me a thumbs up. I think 15 whole people watched the last video. So do that again so I can know how many of you stuck it to the end of this one. All right, you guys, I'm excited. I'm really excited for what's ahead. Okay, here I go on Carrie's big adventure. Bye. Wait, I just remembered something else. I was scrolling through my phone right now and I choked, so I might choke again. But I saw a post from Sheila Marie, right? And and it reminded me that Sheila did she I don't remember the circumstances of it, but she offered to give me a free reading one time. And it was Avery. Avery came through and Avery insisted that she trans channel him for her. And she'd never trans channeled anybody but like Archangel Michael or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, he was like a real bully. He insisted. And he was, but before, I don't remember, he was very romantic and sweet. And unfortunately, that reading got lost. I could never listen to it again. I let Michael listen to it though. And because there was some stuff that related to him somehow. I can't remember, and I thought it might be helpful. But I also wanted him to hear it because Avery was kind of mean to him and made fun of him and was pissed and called him like Mickey Mouse and stuff. And basically, Avery was so in love with me and he couldn't understand why Michael wasn't, also in love with me because, you know, because Avery was in love with me and Michael wasn't. So basically, Avery was calling him a schmuck for not, loving me. But anyway, the main reason I wanted to bring this up is because Sheila kept saying how Avery was my twin flame. And I kind of rolled my eyes because I was like, oh, she's just projecting because she wants so much for Bond to be her twin flame, you know? But I did know that Avery and I had a strong connection, and I figured that, she may be picking up on that as well as projecting her own desires. I don't know if her and Bond are twins or not, but but at the time that was my thought. But now putting clues together in that, that's another one of my whole like reasons for thinking all the thoughts that I've had in the video that I just, all the stuff I just yammered on about was that Sheila picked up on a twin vibe too. That's another reason I think I'm a twin flame magnet. That's another reason why I think that Avery and Michael are going to absorb soul braid, whatever you want to call it. That's trippy. And oh God, I'm so curious about this. I want to talk to Avery and I want to talk to Michael. For now, it's just all theory. Isn't that interesting? And Sheila also said that Michael and I would connect and there would be windmills, which, that's not much of a stretch because, there's lots of windmills in Amsterdam. Okay, what else? Okay, and that's it. I just had to come back and talk about that thing about um, Sheila picking up and saying that Avery was my twin flame. All right, for reals this time. That's it. Okay, bye.